the studios of ITN, The News, with Andrea Catherwood.
Good morning, the headlines. Michael Stone protests his innocence as the Russell murders trial draws to a close. How ITN found the Serbs responding to Kosovo's peace deal. And one of London's landmarks restored to former greatness after 80 years. The jury at the Russell murder trial is due to retire later today to consider its verdict on Michael Stone. Stone denies killing Lynn and Megan Russell and attempting to kill Josie Russell during a hammer attack in Kent. Summing up yesterday, the judge told the jury the central question they have to consider is whether they believe the evidence of Damon Daley, the man to whom Stone allegedly confessed in prison. Adrian Britton reports from Maidstone Crown Court.
Michael Stone leaving court, the jury having heard his defence for the first time. His barrister, William Clegg QC, conceded that Stone fitted the category of person who could have committed the crime, a heroin addict with no alibi, who resembled the e-fit of the killer compiled by a witness. But Mr. Clegg told the jury that didn't prove he did it. It just put him in a category of people who could be wrongly convicted. He said the prosecution's case rested on evidence from Damien Daley, the former prisoner it's alleged Stone confessed to. But the jury heard Mr. Clegg denounce Daley as a man with no morals, a professional criminal who lies when it suits him. In the dock, Stone was seen wiping tears from his eyes as it was described how he'd been threatened by other inmates in prison and told to hang himself. The judge began his summing up by referring to Stone's decision not to give evidence. Mr. Justice Kennedy instructed the jury that it would be wrong to base any inferences on the defendant's silence. Then he turned to the evidence from Damien Daley, telling the jury that if they weren't sure he was giving a truthful report of what happened, that was the end of the case against Michael Stone. Adrian Britton, ITN, at Maidstone Crown Court.
The atrocities facing ethnic Albanians in Kosovo have been experienced firsthand by ITN. About 50 people were forced to flee a mountain village near the provincial capital Pristina after it came under bombardment from Serb forces. They say it's safer in the forest. Our Europe correspondent Bill Neely and an ITN camera crew were caught up in the fire in the village of Trpeže. This is his report.
There is in Kosovo a ceasefire agreement, but there is no ceasefire. Gunfire and shelling breaking the peace the outside world thought had been won. These artillery shells fired from known Serbian positions. The chief target, the village of Trpeže, as we were about to find out. In a farm in the village, they showed me where one shell had landed, and more than a mile away, the Serb police position where they said the shells were fired from. Down below, there was evidence of damaged homes. A farmer showed me shell fragments he'd found. Hardly anyone was left here, he said, in a village where more than 1,000 lived before. Suddenly, we were the targets. The first shell landing about 100 yards from me, a funnel of earth flying through the air. Seconds later, another thud. We ran for cover. We knew another shell was coming. We didn't know where it would land. It was even closer, and soon there was another.
It's all right. We've now heard about 5 mortar rounds fired in the last 10 minutes or so. It's now 3:15 in the afternoon, and this is earlier than mortars have been fired here before. And they're certainly firing at us. There's another one now.
We have to go there.
We escaped on foot. The farmer told us 2 shells landed exactly where we'd been talking to him. His home was destroyed. In a nearby forest, a 2-month-old baby, now a refugee from the same village. More than 100 people fled, terrified by the shelling. Among these children, half a dozen from Trpeže who left after they were shelled. The poem he's reading says, "We live in Kosovo and we will die in Kosovo." But the Kosovo peace deal was meant to ensure villagers could live in peace and refugees could return home. Not here. Not today. Nearby, Serb police units were reinforcing their position, not pulling out. Here, overlooking the scattered villages that have been targeted for 3 days now. The Serb media center told ITN no such unit could have shelled Trpeže. There is fear and there are tears and there is no peace here. 8 months into Kosovo's crisis, 1 week after Kosovo's peace deal.
The travel company involved in a Turkish coach crash in which a British woman was killed is making plans to bring some of the survivors home. Air Tour's staff are caring for 14 tourists released from hospital after their coach crashed head-on with a taxi. All 5 of the occupants of the car died instantly. 23 Britons are still in hospital. The coach tour's guide is amazed that more passengers weren't killed.
I'm lucky to be alive. We're all lucky to be alive. It's something I want to experience again. And nobody else either again either. Never.
I just remember turning to my side and seeing the dirt and rubble as we rolled, and then the wind had come in. Then I grabbed her, and because she was sitting on the other side, I grabbed her and pulled her back, and next minute I was thrown out.
A murder investigation is underway in Cornwall after the body of a woman was found in a remote country lane. The victim, believed to be in her early 40s, was found by a passerby. Her throat had been cut. Police say they're investigating links with the murder of 14-year-old Kate Bushnell near Exeter. The schoolgirl was murdered as she walked a neighbour's dog near her home last November. However, officers have stressed speculation a serial killer may be at work is unfounded and premature. 3 Republican INLA terrorists have been jailed for life for the murder of the Loyalist paramilitary leader Billy Wright inside the Maze prison last year. Sentencing the men at the court in Downpatrick, the judge told Christopher McWilliams, John Kenway and John Glennon that the case against them was overwhelming. ITN has learned the government may soon be offering free nicotine patches on the National Health Service to smokers who want to quit. Ministers are expected to make an announcement before Christmas. One reason for the radical change of tactics is a worrying rise in the number of young people who smoke. Our political editor Michael Brunson reports.
A lot of people are still smoking, despite every effort, even on occasion from wives and girlfriends, to make them give up. More worrying for the government is growing evidence that despite the millions spent on anti-smoking campaigns, we may not be listening anymore. Until 6 years ago, the number of smokers was going down from 45% of the population in 1974 to 28% in 1992. Since then, the number overall has stayed roughly the same, but in some instances there have been clear increases. Among young men aged 16 to 34, for example, it's recently gone up 6% to 39%. And among girls and boys aged 11 to 15 who can't even legally buy cigarettes, it's up 3%. One group, lone parents, has for a long time now been amongst the heaviest of smokers. And one expert who studied the problems of all smokers on low incomes says they need urgent help as they strive to look and feel better.
People in lower incomes find this more difficult and will need some extra help. And providing free nicotine replacement, gum, patches, will be an invaluable aid to them. It will double their chances of giving up smoking.
The trouble at the moment about nicotine replacement therapy, though, is that it is expensive. You have to buy it yourself. Here, for example, a packet of patches, £12.69. Here we've got a packet of gum, that's £5.69. And here we've got an inhalator, that costs £5.95. Yet at this telephone helpline, partly government funded and which takes 1,000 calls a day, many of the callers ask precise questions about how much nicotine patches cost and how they work.
It's a product that gives a controlled amount of nicotine.
The Centre's chief executive has welcomed the news that the government may now make free patches available. They're not a magic cure, he says, but in his experience, they really do help.
Anything that can make NRT more widely available is to be encouraged. We'd like to see it made available on prescription.
Now it seems ministers have got the message, and in a clear change of policy, the Department of Health is moving from preaching to offering help to those who want to give up. And I expect that offering free nicotine patches and other practical help to carefully selected groups will be a central part of the white paper on smoking when it's published before Christmas. Michael Brunson, ITN, Whitehall.
School heads are to be sent back to the classroom in an attempt to improve educational standards. At a conference for head teachers, the Prime Minister unveiled plans for a £10 million academy to train them. One of London's most famous landmarks will be restored to the capital today, the Albert Memorial alongside Hyde Park in Kensington. The Queen's unveiling of the refurbished monument this evening will mark the culmination of a 15-year restoration project. Chris Hoskins reports.
Not seen in its full golden glory since 1915, The statue of Prince Albert will be unveiled by Her Majesty amid a spectacular fireworks display. It's a magnificent monument to her great-great-grandfather, costing a staggering £11 million. English Heritage, who supervised the work, say it's money well spent.
I've worked it out that it's equivalent to 2 days' interest on what they're spending on the dome. This will last another 100 years, and it's magnificent. The dome will last 2 years, and I won't comment on what it looks like.
3 times larger than life, the statue, which was blackened in the First World War, has now been re-gilded in 23.5 carat gold leaf. 45,000 pages of the stuff. The sort of extravagance some feel is sadly missing from modern architecture.
People tend to build rather small, rather mean little monuments, if at all. There isn't the momentum, there isn't the will, certainly not the political will to make great statements.
The debate over the cost to restore this monument to Victorian Gothic pretensions is bound to rumble on. At 7:30 tonight, we'll all be able to see whether it's worth it. Chris Hoskins, ITN.
The ex-England cricket star Geoffrey Boycott is facing a 3-week wait to find out if his conviction for assaulting his former lover, Margaret Moore, is to be overturned. Boycott, who is 58 today, arrived for a 10-hour hearing in southern France with a team of supporters, including PR guru Max Clifford and Mrs. Moore's former solicitor, Sue Sin-Stewart. He claims Margaret Moore lied at the original hearing and says her injuries were accidental.
She had previously told me, in my capacity as a friend, that she had fallen, and that's how she sustained the injuries.
The defence claims Mrs. Moore tried to sell her story.
Initially, she called me and talked to me about the world's biggest star, and she wanted £1 million for her exclusive story, and when I actually met her, she told me that the world's biggest star was Geoffrey Boycott, and I fell about laughing.
Well, turning now to this morning's papers, and Boycott and his team have made it onto many of the front pages. Jeff's girl says the Mirror Boycott wheels in 6 maidens to bat for him. He's pictured in the Times with his 3 lawyers and 13 witnesses. Also Britain to back defence role for Europe, though Tony Blair has insisted there will be no European army. There's a picture of murdered loyalist Billy Wright on the front of The Guardian. His killers got life yesterday, but it says they'll probably be free in 2 years. And Tories' £36 billion attack on Blair. Apparently William Hague is accusing Labour of creating a black hole in Britain's public finances. The Telegraph says Rover is threatening to close Longbridge car factory in Birmingham. Also on the front page, accusations made by MPs that BBC chiefs are lazy and arrogant over sport. Baroness Thatcher's attack on illegitimacy rates takes the front page in the Mail. She said yesterday mothers and babies should be sent to religious institutions. Well, victory for our nurses. The Express anticipates a 17% pay rise is on its way. And The Sun, Blue Peter Christmas book axed. Apparently 100,000 copies of the annual are to be destroyed because they feature disgraced presenter Richard Bacon. Well, it's now 16 minutes to 6 and you're watching the morning news from ITN. Coming up, the quality buyers seek in the cars of tomorrow obedience. Join us again after the break.
My name's Tina Earnshaw, and I was the chief makeup artist on the Titanic. I found out that I'd been nominated for an Oscar with a letter from the Academy. I trained with Max Factor 37 years ago, and I still use Max Factor today. Over the years, I've always had Max Factor in my box. Max Factor and I go way back.
Max Factor, the makeup of makeup artists.
Ring-a-ding-ding. I'll give it 10 out of 10.
All the taste, all the fibre. Kellogg's All Brand Bite Size helps keep you healthy on the inside.
I'm the king of the world!
The biggest film of all time.
I'm flying! Iceberg, right ahead!
Most acclaimed of all time.
I hope you enjoy your time together!
Yours to own for all time. Titanic. On video, the one to own.
Rich, creamy Horlicks can help you to sleep better, feel better, and be able to cope with anything.
Welcome back to ITN's Morning News. Today's top story, the jury at the Russell murder trial is due to retire later today to consider its verdict on Michael Stone, who denies killing Lynn and Megan Russell during a hammer attack in Kent. Union leaders meet Rover management this morning to discuss the future of the Longbridge plant in Birmingham. The company has just taken the wraps off its new Rover 75 model at the British International Motor Show. Along with the new Jaguar S-Type, it's one of almost 50 new models launched into an increasingly competitive market. But while the main selling points remain style, performance and value for money, these days there are two additional battlegrounds: safety and intelligence. ITN's Norman Rees reports from Birmingham.
It looked like something out of Star Wars, the launch of the Rover 75, the first entirely new Rover since its takeover by BMW, a top-range family car whose success holds the future of the company's 40,000 workforce. Across the way, another world preview, Jaguar's new S-Type, the £24,000 car that puts Jaguars into an affordable new price range. It could double their sales to more than 90,000 in less than 12 months. 1 million people will visit the motor show. There's a lot of glamour and glitz, but motoring expert Steve Fowler says there's a down-to-earth major selling point emerging this year: car safety.
Safety is absolutely vital these days. People want to protect themselves and their families. They know what a car's safety features should be, and they read up and check which cars have the best features and which perform best in crash tests.
Steve began by showing me around the Focus, Ford's replacement for Britain's biggest selling car, the Escort.
Well, this is likely to be the best-selling car in the UK, so it's got all the gizmos people would want. Driver airbag, passenger airbag, even got the option of airbags in the seats to protect your side. You've got anti-lock brakes as an option, and also an electronic gizmo that will help to prevent you skidding.
Mercedes' top-of-the-range S-Class costs up to £100,000.
My favourite feature of the S-Class is a radar that's set in the bumper which detects how far away from you the car in front is. And if you're closing too quickly and in danger of having a collision, the car will override your thoughts and your methods, and it'll apply the brakes for you.
That's fine if you can afford a luxury car like this, but how soon before we start seeing them on affordable family cars?
Well, it's no doubt very expensive at the moment, but I would say within a few years you'll probably see it filter down throughout the Mercedes range onto the A-Class, which is from about £14,000, and then through other manufacturers as well.
This new Jaguar S-Type even has a built-in voice recognition system designed for both safety and convenience. Say I want to play a bit of music. CD, play disc 4, track 2.
CD, play disc 4, track 2.
I can even make a telephone call, again at the touch of a button. Phone, dial 0171 430 4674.
Phone, dial 0171 430 4674. Dial, please say yes or no.
And it's as simple as that, all at the touch of a button. Customer safety was at the front of Jaguar's mind from the start.
Our customers want anti-lock brakes, dynamic stability, full set of airbags in the car, and this car's got the lot.
But not every car is designed to cosset the driver. This is a new concept car from Lotus. 0 to 60 in 4 seconds, top speed 133 miles an hour, and not a side airbag or a voice command system in sight.
Demonstrators have been again protesting outside the London clinic where the former Chilean dictator General Pinochet is under police guard. Pinochet is now facing the threat of prosecution in this country. Human rights campaigners say they want him put on trial here if he's not extradited to Spain. They claim British law allows for prosecution for torture even if the offence took place in another country. Meanwhile, in the Chilean capital, Santiago, police used water cannons to break up a rally of anti-Pinochet protesters. The 5,000-strong rally began peacefully but turned to rioting when the police tried to break it up. Several people were arrested. There's to be a public consultation on the proposed partial privatisation of the National Air Traffic Service. The government today says safety will remain the top priority if the proposed 51% sell-off goes ahead. It could be worth up to £1 billion. The government's also announced a major shake-up in flood forecasting and warning systems, but there's to be no public inquiry into the Easter floods, which swept across England and Wales, killing 5 people. A girl from South Wales, Charlotte Church, is now being spoken of in the same breath as Dame Kiri Te Kanawa and other divas of opera, yet she's only 12 years old. Charlotte, a record contract already under her belt, was singing last night. Our media and arts correspondent Katie Derham was there.
Charlotte Church, just 12 years old and already signed up by Sony for a 5-album deal. She was discovered earlier this year singing on a talent show when she was meant to be introducing her aunt.
Can you give us a little burst?
Of course, just like I see off the orchestra.
See off the orchestra? Well, you can try. I haven't been hitting them this evening. There you go. See?
From then on, Charlotte's professional career has been unstoppable. The deal signed, she spent much of her summer holidays recording her first album with the Welsh National Orchestra. She and her family are trying hard not to let it all go to her head. Schoolwork is still very much a priority.
We try to do everything in the weekend or in the holidays or something. There is like some days I have to miss one day off or something, but I catch up with the work and stuff, so we don't have any tutors. You know, I'd rather be in school with all my friends and, you know, my feet kept on the floor, wherever.
Are you worried that the fame may go to her head a bit, or? Not at all. Not at all. Not with the family. We're a very, very close family. Our feet are firmly on the ground, honestly, hand on heart. I think she's the sanest around the lot of us, to be honest.
Tonight's show is predominantly for industry insiders, for the people who will be pushing Charlotte Church's new album in the Christmas charts. They're hoping it will have the same success they've already enjoyed with young classical talent like Vanessa May.
Football, and it's been reported that Martin O'Neill won't be taking over the manager's job at Leeds United.